That's not trash. That's evidence. The morning Marcus Webb told me to leave my house was the same morning I found my wife's second cell phone hidden in her yoga bag. Funny how life works. You spend years thinking you're paranoid, then discover you weren't paranoid enough. I'm Daniel Rivers, 43 years old, maintenance engineer for the city's water treatment facility. Not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and keeps the lights on in our suburban split level. My wife Rachel runs creative at Ashford & Partners, one of those glass and steel advertising agencies downtown where everyone wears black and drinks kombucha. We used to laugh about our differences. She'd joke about my blue-collar hands and I'd tease her about her obsession with designer coffee. These days, we barely speak unless it's about mortgage payments or whose turn it is to take out the trash. That Tuesday morning in October, I was dragging our garbage bins to the curb when Marcus appeared like smoke. The guy was new to the route, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, built like a linebacker gone soft, with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much. Most garbage men wave and move on. Frank studied me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You Greg Norris?" he asked, his voice rough as sandpaper. "Yeah. Something wrong with our pickup?" He glanced toward the house where Carla's BMW sat in the driveway. She was still inside, getting ready for another early meeting at the agency. "You need to leave this house before it happens," Frank said quietly. "Tonight." I laughed. "Before what happens?" Instead of answering, Frank lifted his shirt. Across his barrel chest was a tattoo, intricate black lines forming some kind of symbol I didn't recognize. It looked like a snake wrapped around a dagger with numbers underneath. "See this?" he said. "Your wife's got the same one. Small version on her left ankle." My mouth went dry. Carla did have a new tattoo. She claimed it was some Pinterest design she'd fallen in love with. I'd barely looked at it. "Who are you?" I asked. "Someone who knows what's coming." Frank dropped his shirt and grabbed our trash bin. "Don't tell your wife about this conversation. And Greg, tonight means tonight." He walked away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with a dozen questions and no answers. I should have listened. Inside, Rachel was rushing around the kitchen, grabbing her travel mug and laptop bag. She looked stunning as always, auburn hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. "You're up early," she said without looking at me. "Garbage day." I watched her face carefully. "Hey, can I ask you something about that tattoo you got?" She froze for just a second, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. "What about it?" "Just curious where you found the design. Guy outside said he'd seen it before." "What guy?" Now she was looking at me, and something cold flickered in her green eyes. "New garbage man. Marcus something." Rachel's expression smoothed out, but I caught the tension in her shoulders. "I told you I found it online. Pinterest has thousands of designs." "Yeah," I said, "and I'm the tooth fairy." She forced a laugh. "You're being weird, Daniel. I'm late for my meeting." After she left, I went through her yoga bag more carefully. The second phone was a cheap Android, password protected. When I tried to turn it on, the battery was dead. I found a charger that fit and plugged it in, then headed to work. All day I couldn't shake Marcus's warning. The guy had prison written all over him, the way he carried himself, the way his eyes never stopped moving, that tattoo. And if Rachel really had the same symbol, I left work early and drove home, my mind spinning scenarios. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Marcus was just some ex-con trying to mess with people's heads. Maybe Rachel's new secretiveness was about something innocent. A surprise party, a new job, anything but what my gut was telling me. The fake grenade was sitting on my windshield when I got to the car. It looked real enough to make my heart stop. Military green with a pin and everything. But when I picked it up, it was obviously plastic, the kind of thing you'd buy at a costume shop. There was a note attached, "Mind your own business." I looked around the parking lot. A few other cars, but no one watching that I could see. The water treatment plant wasn't exactly a high-traffic area. Whoever had left this knew where I worked, knew my car. My hands were shaking as I drove home. Rachel's BMW was already in the driveway, which was unusual. She rarely got home before 7 o'clock. I found her in the kitchen, pouring wine with hands that weren't quite steady. "You're home early," I said. "Slow day." She didn't meet my eyes. "How was work?" I pulled the fake grenade from my jacket pocket and set it on the counter between us. "Found this on my car. Any idea who might want to send me a message?" Rachel stared at the thing like it might actually explode. "What is that?" "A conversation starter, along with a note telling me to mind my own business." "Now, what business might that be, Rachel?" "How would I know?" But her voice had gone up half an octave. "Maybe it has something to do with matching tattoos? Or second cell phones hidden in yoga bags?" The wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. Red wine spread across the white tiles like blood. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but we both knew she was lying. That night, I sat alone in our living room with a baseball bat across my knees, watching shadows move across the walls. 20 years of marriage, and I didn't even know who I'd been sleeping next to. The woman who used to hold my hand during scary movies, who cried at our wedding, who promised to be honest and true. Where had she gone? When had she slipped away and been replaced by this stranger with secrets tattooed on her skin? Frank had warned me to leave, but this was my home. These walls held memories of birthday parties and quiet Sunday mornings, of arguments and reconciliations, of a life I thought I understood. How do you just walk away from that? How do you accept that everything you believed was a carefully constructed lie? The hardest part wasn't the betrayal, it was the knowing. Knowing that somewhere along the way, I'd stopped paying attention. I'd let the distance grow between us, let the silence become normal, let my wife become a stranger. And now that stranger was involved in something dangerous enough that men in hoodies delivered warnings with their fists. Dangerous enough that an ex-con garbage man felt compelled to save my life. As dawn broke through the windows, painting everything in shades of gray, I realized Marcus was right. I did need to leave. Not just the house, but the illusion. The comfortable fiction that love alone could bridge any gap, that marriage was a safe harbor against the world's storms. Some storms, I was learning, come from inside. I picked up my phone and texted Marcus a single word. "Okay." Then I started packing, leaving behind everything that couldn't fit in one suitcase. Because sometimes the trash you need to take out isn't sitting in bins by the curb, it's the life you've been clinging to. The one that's already rotting from the inside out. That's not trash, I thought again, looking at the fake grenade still sitting on my kitchen counter. That's evidence. Evidence that the person you love most can become the person you know least. Evidence that danger doesn't always announce itself with sirens and flashing lights. Sometimes it comes home wearing designer perfume and a secretive smile. Evidence that the greatest threat to your life might be sharing a bed with you, pouring your coffee, kissing you goodbye. I grabbed my suitcase and walked out the front door, leaving it unlocked behind me. Let whoever was watching see that I was gone. Let Rachel come home to empty rooms and realize what her secrets had cost us both. As I drove away from the house where I'd planned to grow old, I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. And caring, I'd finally learned, wasn't enough to save someone who didn't want to be saved. The garbage truck was rumbling down the street, Marcus at the wheel. He nodded as I passed, a small gesture of acknowledgement between two men who'd both learned that survival sometimes means abandoning everything you thought mattered. I nodded back and kept driving toward whatever came next.